Hi guys, we're going to do book club number 28. So come on in, say hello, tell me where you're signing in from. Welcome everyone. Just charging my phone. We're talking about the book A Radical Awakening, book club number 28, and we're going to talk about love. So if you're interested, if the topic happens to interest you, stick around. We're going to talk about love and relationships. I think it'll help you. Come on in. Hi, Masha from Lisbon. Daphne from Mexico. Kurdistan. Hello, hello. Hi, guys. So this is for boys and girls. We're going to talk about love. Let's talk about relationships, which is the plague of human existence, if you ask me. Let's talk about relationships and how we get all messed up. So we are talking about A Radical Awakening. Hi, Kelly from Martha's Vineyard. I see you. Yogi from Tampa. Misha from Arizona. A Radical Awakening. So in A Radical Awakening, part 4 of the book talks about cracking the matrix, which basically exposes the lies that we have inherited about things that really are actual sources of great pain. So because we've believed in these lies, we now suffer. So in this part of the book called Cracking the Matrix, I really debunk many of the lies that culture tell us. Waking up to two things in the... okay, sorry, I can't understand that message. Okay, so let's talk about the lies about love, okay? Every human being in the modern era has indoctrinated lies about love, and our ideas about love are really messed up. So if you look at my Instagram post from today, I talk about most of us believe we love one another. I'm just reading it from my screen. Most of us believe we love one another, but in reality, we are deeply attached. Attachment brings with it possession, ownership, control, dependency, need, and give and take, as in a transaction. True love has none of these. True transcendent love bypasses all ideations of me and you. So, are you in love? Are you in a love relationship, or are you in an attachment relationship? This is the $1 million question. And of course, everyone wants to say that they're in a love relationship. You know, when I ask parents all the time, if they truly love their children unconditionally, they get really affronted, like royally insulted when I ask them. They're like, what do you think? Of course, I unconditionally love my children. And then when I throw at them, but what if they did this? What if they told you to F off? What if they stole money from you? What if they were doing drugs and were prostituting themselves? And they're like, and then they, of course, go, yeah, of course we would love them. Yeah, this is an idea that parents have especially, and we humans have in relationships. When we get married, we love the person, of course, right? But then why are divorces so rife with conflict, so rife with betrayal and ego? Where does all the love go? That is the question. So ask yourself, are you in an attachment relationship or truly a love-based relationship? But before you answer, arrogantly, remember that you cannot be in a love relationship unless and until you are in a love relationship with yourself. That means you unconditionally and unequivocally accept yourself. And most of us do not do that. And therefore, to love another becomes really difficult. So, I say in the chapter called The Lies About Love, so many ills in the name of love: ownership, betrayal, control, and need. So many shoulds, if buts, when thens, said with a tongue of love. This is not true love. These are falsities in the name of love. These are lies that blaspheme the true nature of love. So I have this thing right here on my computer, my little note to myself. Love for the sake of loving. Very hard to do. I don't love for the sake of loving. I love for the sake of taking, right? So I don't, but I'm trying to remind myself that love is a verb and it is in itself complete. So you love because you love the loving. You don't love the taking. Really hard, okay? That's why I have it on my desktop to remind myself that if I choose to love, I am choosing to love for the sake of the loving, because the loving makes me feel like I am in the right place doing the right thing. So the act of the loving, the verb, the doing of the loving is the love I have for myself. So if I love myself, the loving that I'm doing should be an expression of my love for myself. Otherwise, don't do it. Otherwise, it's BS. So the loving, the actual loving, is not for the taking or the receiving or the getting. It is complete in and of itself. Meaning, I love to love this person so much that I am getting love through the act of the loving. Okay? Listen, caveat, disclaimer, very hard to do. Okay? That is why it is my most aspirational aspiration, which is to have love without attachment. Okay? It is the highest aspiration, to love for the sake of loving. To love for the sake of loving. Here, I'm going to keep it right here so I can keep showing it. Love for the sake of loving. See my sellotape? It's really old. For many years, it's been there because it is my aspirational aspiration. Okay? So, I write that although love isn't an institution per se, in our modern day culture, love is a real idea. It's so much of an idea that it's an institution. We have real embedded subconscious attachments to love, right? First, whether we like it or not, thanks to the fairy tales we were told, we believe love is some magical, ethereal, event that needs to happen. And then as soon as it happens, it needs to be committed to. And immediately as the feeling arises, embedded in that feeling is a goal, is an agenda. So love as a feeling doesn't get to stay a feeling too long. As Beyonce's song goes, put a ring on it. It's a symbol. You don't have to get married, but it's a symbol that when you feel the feeling, you now need to make a declaration of a commitment. So love as the feeling needs to be put into a prescription bottle, and there needs to be an agenda. Like, hello, are we a couple? Are we just hanging out? What are we doing? Can I take you to meet my friends and family? Right? It immediately becomes agenda-driven, future-driven, and prescribed. So these are the embedded subconscious, deeply entrenched messages around love. Namratas, is it okay to take love over money? I don't know. I don't know what's okay or not. You can decide your own metric, but don't bullshit yourself, right? So I have so many people coming to me clearly for money and dependency, and they're like, I love the person. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know. So I always tell people, if you're there for the dependency and the money, just say, to yourself, just to yourself, that I'm there for the love of the dependency and the love for the money, or the love for the status, or the love for the belonging. Don't pretend like you're in an unconditional love relationship, and then when the other person doesn't prescribe to your prescription, you're having a conniption, right? You're like losing your shit because the other person should love you in a particular way. The minute you have a should, you have to just own to yourself that your love is filled with shoulds. No problem. We're human. All our love is filled with shoulds. But please, let's not pretend like our love is not filled with shoulds, that it's devoid of shoulds. I have no shoulds, no conditions. No, you have conditions. And it's okay to have conditions, but here's who you have conditions for. True transcendent love doesn't mean you love an abusive man or woman. True transcendent love doesn't mean you allow nonsense to occur. No, the condition is that the act of the loving has to be loving for yourself. If the act of the loving is not loving for yourself, now you're going to take abuse, right? Or you're in a transactional relationship, which is fine. Just know what you're in. I'm not about being in a sanctified, ideal relationship. I'm in about being an authentic, honest relationship. But in order to be honest about our love, we have to be really honest with ourselves and really say in the mirror, you know, you're in this relationship for dependency. You're in this relationship because you want the status of being in a relationship. You're in this relationship because you need this person. You're in this relationship full of conditions. If this person looks at another person, out. If this person another person, out. And you know, we are full. Marriage is full of conditions. Okay, thank you. So for most of us, this falling in love, like this idea that it's going to be this ethereal fall in love, it's the most scariest thing for me as a therapist when somebody above the age of 30 says they fell in love. I go, whoa. I can just see red flags, danger. Right? Nobody should fall in love. Okay? We shouldn't fall. Because just by the fact that we're falling, we're imbalanced. We're unsteady. We're on one foot. Don't fall. Okay, please. Don't fall for anything. Certainly not in love. You shouldn't fall into love. Love should be the recognition of a kindred spirit for the present moment. Love needs to be an expansion of oneself into the other. Love needs to be a feeling that you have finally met an aligned soul for the present moment. Love is a feeling in the present moment. Needs to be constantly tapped into, tuned into, and connected with. Love is not a feeling that you can say you have today that you're going to have for the next 50 years. How can you know that you're going to have the feeling for the next 50 years? How can you say, I'm going to love this person in 50 years? You don't know that. So you're just talking rubbish, right? Because culture has told us to talk rubbish. So we talk rubbish, okay? And the priest and the rabbi, everybody's part of this rubbish. Just say, I love right now. And I'm getting married to you because I love right now. I'm not talking about marriage. Marriage is the next chapter. That is a whole elephant in the room. I'm just talking about the ideas around love. Love is a present moment feeling. It is a moment of aliveness, connection, and alignment for the sake of loving in the present moment. If you begin to say, I'm going to love you forever, you're just talking rubbish, and the other person is going, oh, you're going to love me forever, believing rubbish. Okay, rubbish to rubbish. Talking rubbish. After 30, we got to stop talking rubbish. I understand in your 20s, you love this idea of falling in love and Prince and Princess Charming. And all right, be a fool in your 20s. Be young and dumb. No problem. But after 30, you got to wake up. Yeah, and grow up. Okay? First and foremost, most of the love that you're getting is an idea. It's not a verb. It's not unconditional. So you need to know that the person loves you because they think they love you, number one. They're not tested yet. Number two, they probably have mommy and daddy issues. Number three, please don't believe it more than the present moment. You're like, you love me now. And they're like, no, I love you forever. You love me for now. You make sure you stay in the present tense, yes? It's a present moment feeling, okay? A present moment feeling. So for most of us, this falling in love feeling is actually a falling into mommy daddy issues, into need, possession, control, and familiarity. Yeah, I'm the worst person to listen to about love, okay? Like I burst all the bubbles. But I ask permission from my clients since they pay me, can I burst your bubble? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, I'll burst it in a few sessions. It's a desire we have. Most of this falling in love is a desire we have to fulfill something within ourselves. We believe we love the other. We really believe it. But in truth, we are seeking love for our own ego. We fantasize that we are two grown-ups who are going to walk off into the sunset happily ever after without realizing that we are operating like little children instead of adults. We're actually just playing house, yes? House, and let's have children. You be the mom, I be the dad. We want the other to finish the work we haven't done to complete our own upbringing. We are adults who are emotional toddlers, I always say that. Despite our tuxedos and ball gowns, we are ill-equipped to party with the grown-ups. So I always say that the first few major relationships in our lives, till we truly spiritually awaken, which could be in your 60s or 70s or never, are really just recreations of your patterns of your childhood, right? So they're just repetitions. And they're not true, whole relationships. No problem. Because we're not true and whole. So don't have shame. Don't shame yourself. No judgment. It is just the way it is. So the first few relationships or marriages are just going to be trial and error. Like, oops, I thought you'd be my mommy. I thought you'd be my daddy. Oh, damn it, you're not. You're just this little baby, worse than I was. So what am I doing with you, right? No problem. It's an experimental stomping ground. Okay? Unfortunately, we get into it and we call it marriage, and now we're bound for a long time. No problem. It's just human nature. It's predictable. We're all doing it, all of us thinking that when we fall in love, we are different. We're just the same. I see it over and over and over and over. The reason why I debunk this idea of love is because we haven't yet fallen in love with ourselves. So just by that fact, our capacity to love another is really, really very, very threadbare. Okay? No problem. Don't be upset by what I'm saying. Just accept it. Okay? It just is what it is. If we are immature, our love is immature. If we are unaccepting of ourselves, our love is unaccepting of the other. It's just quid pro quo. How you are with yourself, you're going to be with another. If you've been a child all your life, dependent and needy and absent of sovereignty and autonomy, then the love relationship will be that. It just is what it is. So to love for the sake of loving means that you are so in love with yourself, so celebratory and accepting of yourself, that the acts of loving that emanate from you are to actually feed you. So then, because you love yourself, you don't fall in love with abusive partners and abusive relationships. Your entire starting point is a different game, right? So in order for you to get to this place, you have to be truly in this state of transcendent, unequivocal acceptance for yourself. When we don't fully grow up, we constantly project our needs onto others and leak our emotions, leak our emotions all over them. We want them to be the person we need to complete our fantasy of ourselves. The greater the childhood loss, I always say this, the greater the trauma, the greater the fantasy, greater our need for the other to be our mom or our dad. I call this syndrome the twin beggar syndrome, where two people in love, but they're really begging for completion, right? And then we do this with our children. We go into the parent-child relationship, begging our children to complete us, begging our children to make us look good on Facebook, right? We need them to complete our inner holes. Because both people are dependent on the other, the desire to control and possess the other is palpable. Now, we don't say this when we're getting married. I desire that you be my mom and dad and complete me. I desire that I will be able to puppeteer and control you and tell you who you can talk to and who you can love for the rest of your life. I desire that you meet my needs only and that I am the only sole reason for your existence. I desire that you will from now on be my whatever I want you to be. We don't say this. We're all like pretending to be at the grown-up party when we haven't even grown up, right? Anyone getting married in their 20s, go and enjoy the food and the wine, but don't sit there crying, oh, there's such beautiful love, I mean, cry if you want, but smile and laugh at yourself too. How hilarious. You're falling for it again. But go have some good food and wine, So, most of us don't love. Sorry to say. We need and we depend. Most of us don't love. We need and we depend. And just say, yeah, I needed that person for that. I depended on that person for that. I used this relationship for that. I was still incomplete in that relationship. And when you can begin to own your own subconscious motivation for being in that relationship, then guess what? Something miraculous happens. then you don't resent the relationship for not turning out the way you want. You don't get upset with the relationship for not giving you what you thought it needed to give you, because you realize, oh, you didn't give the relationship what it needed either, right? Then the abusive partner doesn't become such a demon. I mean, you have to leave the abusive partner, but you begin to realize, oh, I was in this state of neediness and childlike dependency. I wasn't a grown-up. I didn't have boundaries. No wonder I got abused, right? Then you begin to see the partner as the mirror for how you need to grow up, how you need to heal. The partner is graciously mirroring your broken pieces. But it's really hard to look in the mirror and see the broken relationship as actually not a broken relationship. The broken relationship is a broken mirror to your holes. That's all. It's a mirror to your own holes. That's the relationship. And once you can understand that, then you have gratitude. Then you have infinite peace about the way the relationship turned out. You use the relationship to understand who you were on a subconscious level and how you yet needed to grow up. And you thank your partner, however much the pain, for growing you up, for taking you to the point of the pain, and how the pain became a portal for your greatest transcendence. And you realize, oh my goodness, blimey, I didn't truly unconditionally love this person at all. And then you begin to realize that you didn't show up at all. When somebody, quote unquote, abuses us, right? And we don't like it, we blame the partner. But we don't realize that it's not for them to stop abusing us. It is for us to show up for ourselves, that we don't allow the abuse, right? But that's what I said. When I say love for the sake of loving, first you have to love yourself so much that the loving the other is a love for the self. And then you choose worthy partners. You choose the right people because you are emanating from self-love. So when you emanate from self-love, the act of loving is an act of self-love. The other is just so damn lucky to get your self-love. They're just the lucky people to get it. But they have nothing to do with your act of loving. You've just chosen to sprinkle it on them. They happen to be in your way of your loving. But then you choose worthy partners, because every act of the loving is an act of self-love. So you're never in debit. And if the other is not the one that is a representation of self-love, you say thank you and you move on. You go, I get it. This is not the way I can love myself. So the other is just an act of self-love, right? So the other is not, quote unquote, treating you well. You don't get angry with the other. You say, oh, I find myself not being able to love myself in this relationship, right? Instead of saying, you bloody, you, you say, in this relationship, I'm not loving myself. And I cannot do that to myself. It is unacceptable to me. So thank you very much. You don't have to change. It's just not a way that I can love myself. So if, say, your partner makes you wait, or they never show up, or whatever, something stereotypical, and you just keep yelling at them, show up on time, or why didn't you show up, or set an alarm, and you're being their mommy by scolding them, you have to say, no. This is not the way I want to love myself. I want to love myself by having the other person show up on time. So I will just take myself out of this dynamic and keep on loving. And you keep loving them outside the dynamic. Do you understand? So the act of loving becomes self-love. So most of us don't love. We need the other to love us a particular way. And we depend on them to give us a sense of self. To put this differently, most of us don't love. We fear. Imagine the heartbreak when the other we have depended on refuses to bend to our fantasies and turns out to be who they truly are in their ego self, and not the balm and salve we thought they would be. Imagine the heartbreak, but we have to understand the heartbreak is not about them. The heartbreak is that we didn't choose to love ourselves by choosing a worthy partner. Love is a powerful feeling toward another, complex, nuanced, and multi-layered. It is chemical, physical, emotional, psychological, and spiritual. It exists on the level of energy, undeniably passionate, and yet ephemeral and essentially unquantifiable. It is a force that can only be felt. It can never really be made solid. To love someone is to feel for them without our own feelings about ourselves getting in the way. This is extremely hard for someone who hasn't worked on meeting their own needs, and therefore I call it high love. This shift from self to other is the mark of the higher nature of authentic love. At its core, love is a free emotion. Love is free, you guys. You can never prescribe it. So if someone is forcing you to love them or the love is not coming freely, it means you're in the wrong relationship. You're not meant to be in that relationship for high love. Then honor that relationship is a transactional relationship. That relationship is an attachment relationship. That relationship is a dependency relationship. A high love relationship will always allow for the love to be free. Love is freedom. Love is freedom. If you're not feeling free, you're not in a love relationship. You are in an attachment relationship. And it is hard to see in the mirror and acknowledge, I've been in attachment relationships all my life. It's hard to acknowledge. But let me tell you, you cannot not be in an attachment relationship for most of your life, because you have to wake up, which means you have to be asleep, which means you have to have been in attachment relationships. So don't be upset that all your 10,000 past relationships were attachment relationships. It just means that's who you were when you were asleep. So in order to awaken, you need to become honest with yourself. And it includes the greatest act you can ever perform, which is your solemn declaration of self-love, your marriage to yourself. So if you haven't married yourself, none of this free love can exist. Love is freedom. What this means is that love is spontaneous. It is unpredictable. It is accidental, meaning you cannot plan it. It is unintended. It is not planned. It is not agendified. True love is never agendified. There's no agenda to it. It occurs naturally. It occurs in the moment. True love cannot be forced, cannot be suppressed, cannot be planned, cannot be prescribed, cannot be organized. It cannot be contained either. Because it is alive, it constantly changes, as do all living things. It simply doesn't stay the same, it evolves. To bottle up love in a formula, aka marriage, is to kill its essence and void its true spirit. To tell love how to express itself, when, with whom, for how long, is to suck the beauty of love's essential nature and to convert it to another feeling, maybe still a worthy feeling, but not one we should call love. True love exists beyond the mind and the duality of you and me. It can only be experienced in its transcendent state by those who recognize that love doesn't emerge from checklists or deadlines. That's true love. Now, the capacity to love like this is simply impossible by somebody who is asleep. It can only emerge when you have actively embodied true love for yourself. It can only emerge when you understand that you and the universe are one. When you have experienced oneness with the essence of the universe, which can only happen through meditation, through a transcendent experience, through some great epiphany. Love is the ultimate energy. It is the self fully actualized. Talking about love from my book, A Radical Awakening. Go grab a copy, read it yourself, and try to really understand who you are in relationships. I read some stuff from my book, True Love. I was underlining every paragraph. I love this chapter on love. Grab the book, read it, share it with other people who think they are in love, and help them understand what true love truly is. A Radical Awakening. Thank you for joining me, guys. Join me for my next book club when I have it. Until then, love for the sake of loving. Try it. Bye, guys.